I really love the music of Mozart. It's full of a kind of sadness for me, even in the most sort of major key, melodious, sunny passages. It still has this bittersweet sort of layer of melancholy under the surface. And a few years ago, I recorded some Mozart, a Mozart album, and one of the pieces on there was the B minor Adagio. Now, the other pieces on there are pieces that I had played before, and probably got into trouble a little bit from my teachers for making them too, I don't know, kind of exuberant or romantic or emotionally connected. But the B minor Adagio, when I looked at it, I've not learnt it before, and I thought, well, this piece is so full of drama and pathos. Surely I can just play it in my way and it'll be the way everyone plays it. So I didn't listen to any recordings, and I learnt it, and to my semi-surprise, I discovered that I play it faster, with a stronger groove, with a lot more sort of punch than most recordings. And obviously I prefer it that way. I think it's an incredible piece. It's got a darkness to it. The key of B minor is unusual for Mozart, and I think it's a very dark key, kind of full of this kind of Meister, this darkness, this well, Meister means majesty, really, so it's a kind of dark majesty is the way that I kind of feel it. So it starts with a very sparse melody. And that opening is sort of, I don't know, it's like quite isolated, just a couple of little bars, like a little bold statement. And what we hear next is a fairly logical 4-bar sequence, but full of pathos. As I say, it's got these syncopated, these offbeat sort of accented notes. There's a lot of accents, there's a lot of contrast in this piece, and it's got this quality of yearning or longing about it. So yeah, I played a little quicker, and for me, Adagio, you know, it's a tempo that should flow. You know, it literally means sort of at leisure. So it's not like largo or lento. It's not like explicitly slow. So it should flow. It's got this, you know, these figures. Got that sense of flow going, and to get the rhythm of those offbeat, yearning accents, you kind of need that sense of rhythmic drive, I would say. So even though it's, you know, it's definitely a slow introspective piece, it's got this flow and this drive to it. One of the things that this piece really showcases is big changes in texture. So you have this quite delicate sound a lot of the time that is perhaps more associated with a typical Mozartian sound, but then you have these very dramatic, very bassy sounds. And I think that contrast is really, you know, important to bring out. Mozart's pianos were very different from the modern piano, and a lot of people feel that because those pianos couldn't produce the decibels, the actual sort of volume level that a modern piano can produce, that we should sort of play Mozart more delicately. But actually, those pianos used to clatter a lot more. You know, there's a sort of dynamic feeling, even if it's not actual volume. When you hit those louder passages, the piano would really clatter and really make a noise. So I kind of think you've got to bring it out and really show it, this quality of dynamic contrast. I really love the contrast between the sort of figuration. You've got these in the melody. Obviously, the accompaniment is the same there as here. So that very muscular, that very angular quality in those bassy parts, they come in the trebly version as well. I really like that contrast. I think it's something that, you really got to feel the rhythm to bring out how you've got these smooth lines and then these very muscular, angular kind of shapes. Another figuration that Mozart uses in this piece is a sort of intricate, almost delicate, but soaring filigree arabesque kind of passagework, running passagework, like this place. And it comes a bar later. And we get it again in the minor key when it comes later, and it's so beautiful. And that lovely C major chord in B minor is Mozart really exploring chromatic harmony. There's a lot of chromatic harmony in this piece. He really likes to explore the kind of tonal structure, a bit almost like sort of Bach or something, really allowing himself to meander around through the circle of fifths. So we get to F sharp minor in the development section in the middle. And we end up, through that chromatic little creeping down, we end up in G minor. And then up into A minor. And then B minor, up again. And we're back home. It's the first subject again, and it almost happens unawares. He kind of brings us back in to the recapitulation, as it's called, this restatement of the first subject. He brings us back to it almost, without us noticing. And I think this is, structurally very classical. People often say, oh, it's very romantic pieces, but it's actually very classical. It's very architectural, which is what classical music's all about. Perhaps it's looking a little bit ahead towards Beethoven, but it's quite a late Mozart piece. So I feel it's very of its era, very Mozartian. It's just perhaps not as sort of lightweight as we often associate with that style period. So as I say, it's very dark. There's lots of pathos, lots of drama, but the ending is really quite extraordinary. As I say, it's dark. It's very much a sort of nocturnal piece, I feel. It's a piece of the night, and it's full of anxiety. It's full of dark emotions. But the end, I don't know, something happens, something shifts, and it's quite a sudden contrast into something very different. It's sort of like a lullaby sort of feeling. It kind of goes all gentle, as if you're kind of lulling, being lulled, being rocked to sleep. Very, very beautiful. So it comes quite sort of gradually. We get this sort of smoothing out of the figuration. Very sort of almost dreamy, isn't it? It's got this strange contrast, like a surprising end. And to get the feel of a piece like this, because it is sort of quite an odd piece in a way, and I have to say I hadn't listened to any recordings. What I would do is I will improvise. I'll take a passage and sort of improvise around that kind of idea. So something like. get into the feel so that it feels very much sort of part of me. And this is something that probably people think of as not a very sort of classical approach to kind of getting into a piece. You tend to be scholarly and read lots of treatises and maybe look at the original autograph, the original manuscript and this sort of thing. But for me, it's about getting into the soul of the music and what does it feel like to play it? What was Mozart? Why did he use B minor? What's the feeling of all these strange chromatic shifts? Why is he going? I might carry on. So it's how the language of the music sort of makes sense to me, and that's why I think I've come up with generally come up with performances or interpretations that sound sort of very natural and accessible. So most performances of this piece are much more slow, and I don't know whether they sound more emotionally engaged. I would tend to think they sound more serious and more academic. For me, it's got to have this momentum. I don't want it to plod. I don't want it to be too serious. I want it to be full of emotion, full of feeling. So as I say, I've recorded this work along with some other pieces, a couple of sonatas and a rondo and a fantasia, which is currently on Spotify and Apple Music. So if you wanted to check it out, you can hear the whole performance there. And I'll make some more videos talking about those pieces too. There's quite a bit of a story attached to some of those pieces.